So, with the final season part 2 finally wrapping up, what was the best episode from the final season part 1?
Shut up and sit down.
Yo, what's good? It's the boy Dude Reviews and heavy spoilers for Attack on Titan, the final season part 1. You've been warned. Bringing us into a brand new world with a new cast of characters and a brand new studio taking over, the final season was quite the roller coaster, but with a lot of great episodes. There were some that I didn't like over others. Let's just get straight into it and rank every single episode from the final season part 1. Coming in at last place and at number 16, above and below, episode 16. None of these episodes are inherently bad, they're more or less 8 out of 10s or above, but if I was to put an episode at the bottom, it is without a doubt above and below. This episode more or less acts as a sort of setup for the final season part 2. I love the interaction between Peak and Gabby, Peak telling Gabby that no matter how good they try and be as good Eldians to the Malian people, they're always going to be viewed as the subjects of Ymira who have the devil blood running through their veins. I love the lighting in the jail cell scene of Niccolo lashing out at Grease as he's disrespecting our potato loving gal, and the absolute beautiful detail on Zeke's face when he's being put into the stomach of a Titan. But I feel like out of all the episodes of this season, this is probably one of the most forgettable one. I keep forgetting this episode existed and happened in this season, but man, I can't deny the fact that Eren's transformation towards the end was bloody brilliant. At number 15, we've got episode 10, A Sound Argument. Seeing how vastly different Eren's personality has shifted from the past to the present really just makes you wonder what actually happened with this boy. The way he lashes out at Hanji, but I felt like his sort of outburst came at a place of desperation. Mappa adding in those lightning bolt effects to his eyes when he was screaming at Hanji made the whole scene so much more chilling and quite frightening to watch. I love the cute moment between Eren and his scout friends on the railway scene, discussing who should get his Shingeki no Kyojin powers. But apart from that, this episode in terms of pacing was probably the worst episode in terms of how they paced out certain key points from the manga. The manga more or less felt like this, but I wanted the anime to sort of pace it a little bit better, and it just felt quite clunky. You didn't really know whether you were in the past or the present at times. Also, the whole Mikasa crest on her arm just came out of nowhere. I know it was established in the manga in the previous seasons, but of course the previous seasons didn't establish it in the anime for whatever reason, so it just felt more or less like a thing that didn't have any weight to it at the end of the day. I find it really interesting how Eren really was against using the rumbling in the flashback scene and telling Zeke to stuff his plan up his bunghole. The contrast between that scene and the current episode is just quite startling, showing you that Eren never really wanted to go down this path and choose that option. At number 14, we have got Guides episode 12. I think the highlight of this episode was definitely the death of Dallas Zachary and the reaction afterwards. After this really gruesome attack on this well-known and beloved general dude, the crowd is just acting kind of sadistic, saying Shinzo Sasageo at this pretty gruesome moment. Those words are meant to inspire and encourage and push scouts to fight for what they believe in, but using those words in a moment like this just felt wrong, and it felt kind of unnerving. Oh man, the entire setup of Eren putting on that jacket was just beautiful. The sunset, the colors just popped and leapt up the screen. I know when I first watched this episode I wasn't a fan of it due to the fact that it was probably the worst episode in terms of character designs and consistency in faces. My boy Pixis' head was all over the place in this episode, but I am well aware that the Blu-ray did fix certain parts of this episode. At number 13, we have got episode 4, From One Hand to Another. Major highlight from this episode, Eren's grandfather having that breakdown. I love how it looks like he is some sort of doctor in this facility when he approaches Eren, and how Eren is just sort of digging into this guy, saying does he have any regrets, and he just breaks down and you realize that he ain't no doctor, he's a patient. Such a wholesome episode, particularly towards the second half of the film where Gabby and her friends are just absolutely going crazy with ice cream and pizzas at this festival, and it's just such a wholesome, beautiful moment, and even Reiner has a little smile on his face. This episode also made me really care and really like the characters of Gabby, Falco, Udo and Zofia and the other Malian dudes, and it just makes it even more tragic knowing what's gonna happen. And when Falco takes his boy right into the basement and he sees Eren Yeager. This frame of Eren is possibly the best looking design of Eren I've seen in any season. At number 12, we've got episode 6, The Warhammer Titan. Ooh, it's terror time again when the Shingeki no Kyojin lays waste in Liberio. Just the absolute carnage that Eren causes, him just killing the Malian generals, him flinging boulders everywhere, and just the fear, confusion from the crowd just running, trying to get out of there, and Udo just being stomped to death. Poor little Sophia being crushed by that boulder, and Gabby just screaming her head off. It was just chilling. There were a lot of really nice shots with Gabby just looking really mad and angry and just scared. The battle between the Warhammer Titan and the Shingeki no Kyojin, there was so much gore and blood and just brutality. Levi coming into scene and just him looking cool, and just hearing those ODM gear sound effects when Pika and Porco were just talking to one another just really brought you back to Attack on Titan. But mate, yikes, yikes, yikes. The CGI does not age well in this episode. When I first watched this episode, I was more or less in denial about the CGI. I accepted it and I was fine with it, but the more times I rewatch AOT and I come to this episode, the more times I realize that CGI doesn't look as good as I thought it would. I mean, the Warhammer Titan design looks more or less pretty cool, but it is what it is. At number 11, we have got episode 9, Brave Volunteers. Unlike A Sound Argument, this episode perfectly balances the first and second acts of the past and the present without it feeling jarring or confusing in terms of where the timeline is at. It's just so fun seeing Hanji get so excited about knowing a little bit more information about the outside world from Yelena and Onyankopon, and Nicolo's whole relationship with the scouts and Sasha, feeling so sad and depressed over the death of Sasha. I just love the whole funeral scene of Sasha's family, just meeting Nicolo for the first time, and I just love the stark contrast between Eren and Armin, where Armin is just so hopeful and naive, hoping that they're gonna be able to find some sort of peace treaty with the rest of the world, but Eren is just like, yeah, that's not gonna happen, buddy, and just the look on his face just says it all, mate. Also, props to Onyankopon's speech. At number 10, we've got episode 7, Assault. In terms of animation and action, it was a massive step up from the previous episode of the Warhammer Titan. I found the action to be just absolutely intense. The explosions just looked so glorious and lush. I loved seeing Armin's new Colossal Titan, and it was 2D. Wow. Just seeing how ruthless Eren was in this episode, just absolutely using Galliard to get the Warhammer Titan's power like a nutcracker. Even Mikasa didn't really approve of it. And the desperation in our girl Gabby as she's screaming to her Ryan and Brown to just try and save the day. Man, that voice actress deserves an award. At number 9, we have got episode 3, The Door of Hope, pretty much diving deep into Reiner Brown's backstory. It was just so interesting seeing that Reiner wasn't this alpha male that he is in the Paradise Island part of the show. How in Mali he's just sort of this underdog, how people don't really see too much in him, particularly Galliard just bullying him and picking on him. How what he wants to do is just live with his dad so he and his mom can live together with him, and just how even despite him getting the title of honorary Malian, his father still can't look at him in the same way he looks at other Malians. He still sees Eldians in his eyes no matter what status they have. Yeah, this was a pretty good episode. It had a lot of great whoa, what the heck is that? Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that's the one thing I wasn't a fan of. Reiner's face as a teenager in this episode just looked really odd. It didn't look like him. It was drawn well, but man, who the heck is this guy? At number 8, we've got episode 2, Midnight Train. Just seeing the contrast to Malians returning home and greeting their family compared to when the scouts come back after a battle. It's just sort of night and day. Just how much PTSD he's sort of suffering from. Like the scene when he's waking up from that dream of Mikasa, and as well as Rhino, seeing his fellow Eldian Malian dudes just sort of coming back from the battle and Falco taking care of them, and just how cruel these Malian soldiers are to them, and just how they just don't feel any sympathy towards these people. It's just so sad to watch. At number 7, we've got episode 11, Deceiver. Yeah, the main highlight from this episode was just Gabby and Kaya's interaction and just how brainwashed this kid is. I mean, my gosh, she looks deranged in some scenes. Her screaming and shouting at Kaya, saying how she's not innocent and how she should atone for what her ancestors did, and how Best Boy Falco is just constantly trying to defuse these situations and just try and make Gabby see sense, but this girl is just not listening. I love the moment where Mikasa sort of has a flashback to baby Eren, and this whole scene is completely different to the season 1 moment where it looks really heroic back in the day. Now it's kind of sadistic and kind of haunting, now that Eren is going down a path that Mikasa doesn't 100% want to go down with as well. And number 6, we've got episode 5, Declaration of War. Holy moly, Eren and Reiner's conversation was just such beautiful top tier writing. How just different Eren is now, but at the same time he's still the same dude. How back in the day he would have just shouted and berated Reiner for what he did, but now that he knows the truth of the world, he's now calm, he's collected. He realizes that Reiner didn't have a choice in what he had to do, and how Reiner breaks down and not even trying to seek forgiveness. He just wants to be punished by Eren or someone. The whole Willy speech just building up tension and momentum up until that final moment of Eren. Oh my gosh, and the Shingeki no Kyojin just decimating that building. At number 5, we have episode 8, Assassin's Bullet. Mate, talk about an episode of just unexpected developments and reveals. Zeke siding with the Paradise Island people, Gabby killing Sasha, and just the whole tension between Eren, Armin, and Mikasa after being reunited for all these months that Eren's been away for, and just how Armin's just looking at him. They are not on the same page anymore. At number 4, we've got episode 14, Savagery. Oh my goodness, this episode beautifully adapted this chapter from the manga. The Eren, Mikasa, and Armin conversation, the tension, the words Eren was giving to Mikasa and Armin, just seeing how far gone this guy is, how Mikasa is just absolutely having her heart broken by Eren's cruel words, Armin getting up, beating him, and just the punch and just the brutality that Eren is giving his boy Armin Arlet. Man, the animation on that was just beautiful to watch. Even the Levi versus Beast tie-in animation scene looked pretty nice. Just seeing all of Levi's men turning into these tie-ins, and just some of the action that Levi was just chopping and just slicing them, and then him battling against the Beast tie-in, that looked pretty nice. And at number 3, we've got Children of the Forest, episode 13. Nicola finding out that Gabby is the one who killed Sasha, and just how Gabby is so damn proud that she did what she did, but she has no idea who she did it to. Whole interaction with the Browse family and Nicola and Kai. Oh my god, dude, I was just on the edge of my seat just wanting to know what was going to happen, and there were no Titans involved in this episode at all. Barely even a main character or a side character in this show having some of the best dialogue and line deliveries. Oh my gosh, this dude stole the show for me. And then how Kaya, even despite hearing all this, she just wants to kill Gabby, and you just see the rage and anger and sadness in her eyes, and just how Gabby just thinks that Mikasa and Armin are going to kill her. Again, Gabby, you're so damn brainwashed. And I also love the scene of Levi in the forest where he's getting the news of Zachary's death, and it was all part of the Jaegerists, and him just really regretting trusting Eren from the beginning and wondering how many of his men he sent to their deaths to try and protect Eren. At number 2, we have got episode 1, The Other Side of the Sea, the episode to start of the final season part 1. This was without a doubt the best animated episode in this final season part 1. It was a treat for the eyes. It was like watching a mini movie, this episode, introducing us to this new world of Mali, seeing these new characters, and straight away you already really like these people, interesting personalities. A lot of really cool sequences like the Raining Titans and the Beast Titan throwing rocks at the boats in the oceans, and the music, mate. Oh my god, the music was just blaring through this episode. What a way to bring us back into Attack on Titan. But without a doubt, at number 1 and the best episode of the final season part 1 is episode 15, Soul Salvation. Diving deep into Zeke Yeager's backstory and finding out why he betrayed his parents and realizing why he had to do it. And to be honest with you, can you blame him? Grisha Yeager was an absolute nutter and kind of an arse to our boy Zeke Yeager. The way he treated him, he didn't even see or view Zeke as a human being or his son. He just looked at him as this tool, this key to Eldia's restoration. And all Zeke wanted was just to spend quality time with his dad, and he gets out inside Cassava, and just how he's able to develop this great bond with him, and just love some of those sequences with him. A lot of those scenes looked really visually appealing, Especially the scene when Cassava is breaking down his backstory and what his wife did when she found out that he was Eldian. Oh my gosh, just some of the visuals in that moment just broke your heart. And the music just playing in the background, mate. You can't go wrong with that. Grisha's voice actor also deserves an award for just his absolute haunting performances as screaming Grisha Yeager. And that's why this episode is my favorite in this entire season. It's probably the best episode in terms of the pacing, the story, introducing us to new characters who just come and go, but just always will stay in your mind and you'll never forget. But what is your favorite? Tell me in the comments down below. What is your favorite episode from the final season part 1? And what's your least favorite? Tell me. Like this video and subscribe for more Attack on Titan reviews, reactions, comparisons, breakdowns, rankings, and more. But thank you for watching, and as always, Aborted Reviews signing out.